Hey, here we are again. I've just about completed the steeking. Now, it's important that anyone who's contemplating doing repair or making kilts should actually know the underlying principles of what you're doing. The steeking reinforces the bottom of the fell, the sewn portion of the pleats. The fell shouldn't come under a lot of stress, but the steeking supports that, and more importantly, it keeps the bottom edge dressed off, because if this back stitch wasn't here, these lower edges, being only sewn on the outside, they would sag down on the inside, and the kilt would have this jagged appearance across the bottom as these things stuck down. So I've just about reached the end. I've just threaded on a new piece of heavy linen thread. Now, in the past, people used heavier thread because it was stronger. I normally just use the same thread I use for everything else, which is Gutermann's cotton poly. So I'm using a white linen just to show you, so it's more important. It's more apparent in the video what I'm doing in backstitch. Now I've just reached the end of a seam. I've just reached the end of a bit of thread. So I'm just I've threaded a new piece, and I tie a knot. I tie an overhand knot, and before I draw it completely tight, I try a second knot, and then I pull it tight, and that's more efficient than one tiny little knot. I'm just going to cut off the extra bit, like so, and thread it up underneath. So the first knot's hidden, and then I'm going to tie these two pieces off because we want to maintain the structural integrity of the seam. If it wasn't, it would gradually come undone. And that, as you can see, is going to be hidden by the overlap. This will be later hidden by the lining, which will go on. So I pass through the pleat. Now I'm making sure, because this transition from blue to black is very, very hard to see, and it's made a bit more confusing by the broad chalk line I've put across it. So I look to see that the next bit of the pattern right there is properly lined up, tweak it up in a position. I've brought it through. And the things we want to avoid, I don't want to pull the cloth this way, and I don't want to bunch it this way. So I'm making sure that it's lying flat, and I do a back stitch. And as you can see with a back stitch, the needle comes out of the cloth and then goes back into the cloth behind. And I'm sure if you Google backstitch, you'll find any number of other examples. So I'm going to continue this to the end. And I'm not passing down through all the layers, of course, because I don't want it visible from the outside. But I do it like so. And it doesn't have to be tight, but we want the tension to be even. So that's hidden a little bit. Sometimes I take it a bit farther, but in this case I'm taking it this far. Once again, making sure that's even. And on I would carry. And when I get to the end, I'll back stitch it back and then tie it off again. Great. So from this stage now, I've attached, or I've finished the inside apron. I've basted it. I've sewn it. I've basted it in place. So the next time you see me, we'll be contemplating putting in the canvas. Thanks.